Welcome back, guys. I'm sorry for the wait, but Kevin literally has real life issues and called midterms, so he's being lame with that, and that's why this video is very late.
But hey, we are free now, and it's kind of you guys' fault for joining the draft. You know, you joined the draft, we joined the analysis for your division.
Yeah,
So
like the division's also joining as well, so like maybe I'm just
yeah,
cursed to be like surrounded by genres. I don't fucking know. But enough jawing around. I guess we should probably get back to doing the actual analysis that you're here for.
let's try to do sub 1 hour again.
Yeah. So I guess we can just jump straight into it. And starting off, we got Bool and his Portland Porygons. And I don't really know what the fuck I'm looking at, honestly. Like, I see pieces of a good team, but kind of similar to last season, it just doesn't really all come together for me.
Yeah, there are definitely some things that are weird. Like I don't know why there's an Infernape and an Entei and a Hitmontop. You know, it's like three physical attackers that like share type, and then you have Empoleon plus for Alligator, and I don't
Yeah,
know what
like,
Feraligatr really does here because you have a lot of good physical mons already, right?
yeah.
Landorus and Fernape, Entei. So that's just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, like I kind of understand maybe like Infernape plus him on top because like him on top can basically be defensive all the time and gives you spin and like reliable priority since Infernape doesn't always want to run Mach Punch. But Entei plus Infernape, I just feel like they do mainly the same things.
Yeah,
And
and then like in return, you're missing typings like the dark typing that would have been nice to stop uh, things like stored power, future sight. We talked about this in the other division because Mike's team also didn't have a dark type, but I
mhm.
think here it's kind of worse because Mike at least had a 4 time psychic resist. Here
Yeah,
your resist are Latios and Empoleon,
it's
which are
Latias.
really. Oh, I cannot read, but
Yeah, it's
they're
Finnish.
good mons, but it's still like with Latias, you'd probably end up in like a weird stored power war or whatever.
Hmm.
Whoever crits
And
first wins, and it's just not a fun time
and
playing against stored power.
Empoleon also doesn't have reliable recovery for now. So there's only
Yeah,
so many
for
hits it can
now.
take. There's only so many hits it can take, and like you don't always want to like be forced to playing the passive game with like Sylveon and Poleon because like sure they have decent offensive stats, but they're still somewhat on the passive side unless you're bringing like Spec Sylveon or like I don't know SD and Poleon, which I don't know why you bring SD and Poleon for Alligator does that job but better. I just don't really like the Feraligatr here.
Feraligatr, yeah, is kind of weird here. I feel like because you have good physical attackers, you have a good water type. I guess it's now a water type that resists fire, but it's not a mon you really want to switch into things, right? And you have a Latias if you
Mm-hmm.
really want like a fire resist. So I think for Alligator and Entei are weird here.
Yeah, like I can understand the Feraligatr if this is like a Veil or Screens offense team, but I don't really see any Mon that is like just dedicated to setting up Veil or setting up screens here.
Yeah, so like you end up with a team where like you don't have a grass or a bug that resists ground. So like Thousand Arrows is more annoying. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have a dark type. Don't so like a lot of the ghost types and dark types and like psychic types can be annoying too.
Yeah,
It's
you also
just
don't have a
unfortunate.
grounded poison, so T spikes are pretty free on you. Granted, you have
Yeah,
a lot of levitators, but it's still annoying.
yeah. I mean, I think this team obviously can still win games. You have webs alongside some pretty good threats. Zlando is really scary.
Mm-hmm.
Rimfrost is annoying to switch into, and Megaladias, there's a reason why that one is S tier. It's a really good Pokemon.
Yeah, like you have Wincons here. It just I guess I can kind of see why you might have like Entei and Fernape. Actually, you just want to overload your opponent's fire resists because like you can probably handle like one of the two, but then together like your bulky water is really pressured now to
Yeah.
handle both. So I can kind of
Like,
see that, but I don't think that's like as good as it is on ladder in
yeah, I don't
draft.
think this is like necessarily a bad team. There's a lot of good ones. It just feels underwhelming for a draft that was first overall.
Yeah, I agree. like your first overall, you have the choice of any S tier, and like Lander T is like Lander T with Z is a good mon, but I don't think it's a first overall when things like Bagirna, Genesect, Garatina, Naganadel are on board. Calyrex.
Yeah, if I had a penny for every time Cable drafted double fire type, I would have 2 penny, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
And I guess on that note, I think we should probably move on before we end up rambling over and over again.
Yeah.
Alright, so next up we have Yeezy. And the first thing to notice is no ground or electric type, which I think is a really... It is a pretty big issue, because Volt Switch is very free here.
Volt Switch is free, yeah, and like, I think most of the good electric types were drafted, Coco, Zera. And so, yeah, so like, switching into Volt Switch is going to be annoying, especially because a lot of your better defensive mons like Milotic Mendebas are weak to electric. So, like, it's kind of annoying. And that's unfortunate because the rest of the team looks really solid, right? Breaking through Milotic Mendebas and, like, Uxie is going to be annoying. Megirna and Kyurem are just amazing Pokemon. Mega Aerodactyl is super scary.
Yeah, and then Kyurem Mega Arrow, like, you have really good offensive typing there. Like, bulky, and I really like Kyurem for Mega Arrow and Megirna because it can kill all the bulky grounds that those two don't really like.
Yeah.
I'm not really, like, I understand why Salazzle's here, I just hate that mon, so kind of biased against this team as a result.
It's good for speed.
Yeah, like, no, it's good here, I just don't like it.
You're just being a biased piece of shit.
Yes, I am being biased. Like, I'm pretty sure I lost my consent. Like, every time I draft Salazzle, I get cursed by it.
So... It's a nice service to have alongside Megirna,
Yeah.
And like, I don't think it's bad here. It has a lot of like, it has 3-4 time resistances, so despite a mediocre bulk, it can still be like, it can still come in on fairies, get a sub, and start like doing toxic bullshit. So like, I really don't think it's a bad mon.
No, it's not a. I just don't like it. That's all. That's all I'm saying with it.
Yeah.
In terms of hazards, I think it's just a little unfortunate that Yuxi's like your only like real hazard setter here.
I don't think it really matters.
It doesn't matter a ton.
Yuxi is the kind of Pokemon that can just always come and bring rocks and like.
Yeah, no, it's.
What else like, will do, right?
If you're gonna have a reliable rock setter, like Yuxi is one of the better ones, but it's just sometimes you do want that extra move slot, and you kind of have to get hazards as a result with this team.
I feel like on some other rockers, maybe on Uxie, I really don't think it's that big of an issue. Like, I
guess. Besides like no electric or ground type, this team looks good. I could see breaking steel, like bulky steels, could be.
There's a Conkeldurr
issue, but yeah, I was gonna get to that. The Salazzle Conkeldurr should deal with most steels, so it's not a massive issue. Like,
I don't think breaking is an issue at all here. You have busted freeze dry, you have a fucking Megirna, and then you have things like Taunt Mendebas, Taunt Salazzle that can break down defensive cores. You can toxic everything with Salazzle. You have a Conkeldurr that can just be guts and hit hard. So I really don't think that's an issue here.
It's a good mix of both cleaners and breakers, and mons that like to do both.
Yeah.
So offensively, it should be fine. I'm just concerned about like you kind of give up like momentum can be given up a little bit easily just because of how free Volt Switch is.
Yeah, I think like the only real issue I have with this team is just why is Volt Switch so free here?
Yeah, like I think like I don't know how you get it, but like something like Stunfisk would be really good here.
Yeah, like if you don't get a grunt type, at least some sort of Volt Absorb mon here would be nice. It's just something to stop Volt Switch because otherwise it's annoying.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to put it.
And with that, do you want to move on?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. So now we have Honch, and he has made so many goddamn trades with his team. Like, just settle on something, please, man.
I mean, he kind of has to now because he's out of FAs.
That's true. But
we can touch a bit on this version of the team, and then we can show the updated version, because starting from week 2, that's the team he will have.
Yeah.
So if we look at the old version of the team, it can feel maybe a bit passive with Florges, Rotom, Slowking, Gligar, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of your more offensive mounts can be weak to Helmet, right? You have
Yeah.
Zamazenta that cannot run pads, Mega Kang that cannot run pads, Zerui that cannot knock pads away, so it was kind of physically biased. Obviously, you had a Gengar, but it was pretty much just Gengar on the special side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, it felt like this team is like just asking to like sit there for like 55 turns and just spam Wish and like Volt Switch and to do like 20% every time, and that's how it wins before like sending in Gengar to try and clean. But
Yeah.
I'm not really a big fan of that strategy because I feel like just like Rotom Heat, Slowking, Mega Kang, like Florges, they all kind of invite breaker. Like you can bring breakers and like they sometimes have trouble dealing with them.
Yeah.
If that doesn't really make sense, does it?
But hey, that doesn't matter here because he already played his one game with this team, and we can look at the new team now.
True. Hopefully this shows up. Okay, cool, it does. It's kind of cursed, but you're gonna have to deal with it. And this is his new team after trades, and
So
I think it's a good bit better.
yeah, so we were talking about how this team felt physically biased in the old version. This time he has now Victini that can be a really good special amount with Blue Flare and then coverage. You have Regieleki, you have Superior, and Altair that can also be special.
Yeah, I also think that the Z user's a big upgrade here. Like, I mean, Gengar was a good Z user, but I think like a Lucky Victini can all really abuse Z.
Yeah, and now his dark type is a Drapion, so he can knock items now, which is nice.
And I also think that Vaporeon is a like it still can be passive, but at least has like Roar and Flip Turn and like a decent and like Scald is always annoying to switch into.
It's passive, but I think at least in that department, it's less of a setup fodder than Florges because, like you said, it has Roar, it has Flip Turn for Momentum, it has Haze, so like I think it's an upgrade from Florges.
Yeah, my only concern with this is that I think that if the opponent has good way, like has a decent ground type and like some sort of way to deal with Victini, breaking could be a little bit of an issue. But again, like Superior can snowball really easily if I'm left unchecked. Mega Alt can break. Drapion like you
Yeah,
can run like SD Drapion for the mid game. Zama can do decent damage and clean up. SD Silvally exists.
yeah. Being able to be like any type it wants means I don't think this team will ever have trouble breaking. Right, you can just choose Silvally of a good type as the and then like, kill something. He also said, "Oh, if the opponent has good ways to deal with Victini, that's like you're the only team who has like Giratina Origin,
Yeah.
that can really deal with Victini, you know." And so
Yeah, so it's not really a big issue. Victini plus Aleki plus Superior should be able to handle most things.
yeah, and I think the speed now on this team is really annoying. Like between Zamazenta, Regieleki, and Superior, it's going to be really hard to just outspeed this team. You
Yeah,
know, like Superior is a good Scarfer, and it's already like really fast.
mm-hmm. like it
Regieleki is
does.
the fastest mon, and
Like to some extent, I can see like Trick Room being in like Trick Room could be an issue for this team, but then like Crustle can hit hard. Victini can run Trick Room sets. You can run like some sort of really fat Mega Alt that's first but works under Trick Room, or just like you don't. I don't think you ought to lose to Trick Room just because of like how fast your team. Like even though your team is really fast.
you do have the fat to kind of stall a trick.
Yeah, Mega Alt Gligar Vaporeon I think is a pretty neat like defensive core.
Yeah,
Gligar and Vaporeon are a bit on the passive side, but at least they have momentum, so it's like not the end of the world again.
yeah, and I think typing wise, this team will never really struggle with anything because it is Silvally, right? You can always
Yeah.
just patch holes with Silvally if you're really weak to certain mon or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I think this new team is better. It's
I
nicer.
agree.
I like the momentum options of this team more. I think Flip turn Vaporeon, U-turn Victini really add to the dynamic of this team.
Yeah. And I think we can move on now, right?
Yeah.
Alright, let's move on to Destroyer, who also made trades, but we'll cover those later. So this is the team he has right now. Thankfully, he already played his one game with it. And it's like I don't know how it's like a rain team, but like not a rain team at the same time.
It's a rain team without a rain sweeper, but I can see where like the rain synergy comes, right? You
Yeah,
have Coco that can run thunder, Ashgren that just has a free specs with his weather move.
yeah, your top tier
Scissor,
really appreciate rain,
you know? Yeah.
but like, it's scary offensively. But it kind of reminds me of like I don't know why, but it feels like if you took the first like 6 Mons, feel like if you took a Gen 7 rain team, Gen 7 OU rain team, and made a draft out of it.
It does feel like Gen 7 OU, yeah, without the Ferrothorn.
Yeah. I
Um,
think I don't know what to say about it.
I don't think it's a like if you just look at this team, I don't think it's a bad team. It's like if you can play offensively and
Mhm.
sack the right things when you have to because you're playing offense. I think this team,
Yeah.
as it is, can do really really well. The only odd thing about it is I think Thunderous. I don't know what it really does here because you have a Coco, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it feels redundant, and it's not like you have Coco and then like you random load here electric. It's Coco and Thundy T, two ones that cost a decent chunk of your budget, right? So
Yeah.
it's just odd here.
Thundy T just feels like
Uh,
more of like a win more button here.
yeah, but luckily he's trading this away. I'm
Yeah.
kind of spoiling, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to get to the trades now?
Yeah.
All right. So these are the trades he's made, and I think these are quite a bit better. Now he has an actual like a mon that abuses rain directly in Seismitoad as well as a reliable rocker, so Mamoswine doesn't always have to click rocks.
And the Medicham has been upgraded to a Mega Gallade, which is one of the scariest mon you can face. It's so hard to
Yeah.
find for Mega Gallade. I
Like
like
Mega.
this version of the team more, I think,
Yeah.
obviously.
I think Mega Gallade, Ashgra, and Gmol are just a pain in the ass to try and check defensively.
Yeah.
Like you can maybe handle like Ashgra plus maybe Gmol, but then you throw in the Mega Gallade and it's like, oh god, what the fuck do I do?
Yeah. Another issue I think that the other team has for a rain team, it didn't have the best water resist, so like rain could backfire, right?
Yeah.
I was saying this as a joke earlier, but like he didn't have the Ferrothorn to go with his rain, right? Usually in rain teams you have Ferrothorn to kind of stop other water types. He didn't have it. But now you have Seismitoad that can just be water absorbed and, you know, be a stop to other water types trying to abuse your own rain. It's also a rain abuser itself because it can be flip sim. So overall, I think it's a really nice addition here.
My concern is that now you have no ground resist and no mon that really really likes being pretending to be a ground resist. Like, yeah, sure, Fizdef Scizor exists. You can run like Fizdef Seismitoad, Fizdef Pelipper, I guess even.
Yeah,
But
I mean, Pelipper checks most ground, and if you're talking about the Zygarde matchup, there's a Mamoswine that can, always
yeah,
Ice Shard once it's weakened, so I don't think it's the end of the world. I also think Zygarde has a hard time setting up here against this team.
yeah, that's fair. But another thing too is that I think Freeze Dry is pretty free now.
Freeze Dry is really scary, but luckily there's Scissor, and then there's Rain to kind of weaken Hidden Power Fire, so I don't think it's
Yeah,
the end of the world.
it's just something to watch out for in prep. That like if you're facing a good Freeze Dry mon, just you have to
There
play
is one,
offensively.
it's Kyurem, that's it. The other ones don't exist.
I guess, kind of.
And I think Scissor plus Big Fat Mousewine can somewhat deal with Kyurem, so I don't think that's the end of the world. For a rain team, I don't think it as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, that's
Usually
fair.
rain teams are a lot weaker to freeze dry because
Yeah.
you have that Furthorn and then suddenly, oh no, my steel doesn't resist freeze dry. What do I do? But yeah, overall, I think
Yeah.
this is a really strong team if you can position yourself well. Obviously, having a team that offensive is always a double-edged sword
Yeah. Like your only real
because
bulk here is Pelipper Seismitoad.
you can overwhelm the opponent pretty easily, but you can also get overwhelmed pretty easily.
Yeah, I think this team is gonna really depend on how well you can position, and if you can't position well, I think you might struggle with this. But if you can position well, I think this will do
But
very
yeah,
well.
but I think as an offensive team, it's really, really, really strong. It's really scary to face.
And with that, do you want to move on to?
Yeah,
Yeah, cool. Now we get to talk about your team. You get to not shut up for like 20 minutes.
this is the third team in a row that made changes, but it's the last one too. So no, it's not every team you see here that's going to just change.
This is truly a primordial moment.
Yeah.
So, talk about your team.
I just decided to draft mons that click buttons. So, Dracovish, pretty straightforward. You click Vicious Rend, and try not to get paralyzed. Haha. Genesect, you just click U-turn or click like, I don't know, boosted hits by download. Really good mon. I had Victini, never brought it, and it's being traded away. So, it's you guys saw it on Honch's team a bit before. So, yeah, good luck Victini. Spectre, just clicks Shadow Ball and not much else. You have Z Hyper Beam to try and kill the Dark type. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory, and so.
Yeah, basically his team is like 8 mons, really. Like, you have the first 7, and then like the bottom 4 combined to add up to like the total value of like maybe 1 like mon on compared to the top 6.
I think in the bottom 4 though, the only mon I was almost not bringing was probably Censure. I think in that team Thwacky is pretty good because it's another pivot that can U-turn, and then you have Terrain to weaken EQ for Glow King, Zera, and Victini, which was really big.
Yeah. Like with these kinds of teams, it's almost there's no point in analyzing them defensively because they're not there to play defensively.
I mean, if you look at my week 1 record, it was a 5-0 in 50 turns. So like it's not like I was playing super hyper offense where I have to sack or whatever.
I guess. I mean, I guess Glow King Skarmorator is like a pretty solid like backbone.
And the offensive ones that I have, there's not that many that are super frail. That's the thing. Like, Genesect is pretty thick. Dracovish, your highest stat is literally your defense. Victini obviously is bulky. Spectre on the special side is surprisingly bulky. I think it's like 100 HP, 80 SPDF.
Something like that.
And then when we go look at its stats, yeah, it's 100 HP, 80 SPDF, and then 60 defense. So even on the physical side, it's not too weak. 160, like you're not getting O-code by moves if it's not super effective.
Do you want to talk about your trades now?
Yeah, we can look at the new version of the team now.
Alright. I think this one is better because I think Victini was like maybe a bit overkill on the offense, but now you have like Mega Autono that provides Wish that keeps like in case something almost like gets game, but then like you really need it, like Dracovish, then you can just wish it back up to full.
Yeah, I think now my team has more longevity. Zero is another one of those like offensive ones that are pretty bulky.
I think it's also another great scarf for your team.
Yeah, and I like Zerud with Glow King because it covers Glow King's weaknesses pretty well, right? Glow King is weak to Ground, Ghost, and Dark, and oh, what does Zerud resist? I wonder. So I think it makes the team... I like the trades I made because I think it makes my team a lot more solid defensively, right? And offensively, it's still super annoying to pray for. There's still Dracovish, there's still Spectre, there's still Z-Move Zera, and there's, like, I think Genesect is the most annoying out of all of them.
Yeah. Like, Spectre or Dracovish already force so many, force 2 types to come. Otherwise, you get, like, fucked. And then Genesect can prey on that pretty easily, as can Zera.
Yeah. And then there's a Zeruna to also punish Bulky Waters that would want to come in on Dracovish, for example.
Yeah. Overall, your team... I think your team is just stupid. I don't like it. I like it in terms of it being a good team. I don't like facing it. It's very annoying.
It is... yeah. I think for a team where I got round 1 Glow King, it's pretty... it's as good as it gets, I think. For a round 1 Glow King team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you want to move on now?
Yeah, we can move on.
Alright, cool. Now we got Gym Leader Rog. He's literally doing Mono Bug.
So you guys got a bit of a sneak peek on what I think about this team in the last video. For those who didn't watch that video, I said something along the lines of, with the budget we have and an S tier, it's really hard to have a bad team unless you're ROG and draft Mono Bug. It's for a Mono Bug team, it's pretty good, right?
Yeah,
But like,
it's a monobug team.
it's a Mono Bug team. You're facing a flying type and you just cry. You're facing a rock type, you just cry.
I mean, to be fair, if he's facing a rock type that isn't Diancie, he has a Buzzwole for that. Like the end of the world, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. You're facing a fire type. You just like you can see Smortny's team right below. Like imagine that Blacephalon just being Scarf and clicking Flamethrower, right? What the fuck do you do?
I mean, a Rockman does technically resist fire because of its busted ability. But like, yeah, he only has. It's very like his checks to things are very like limited. And he has to get really creative with it
Yeah, and like
to have a chance.
I think another problem with doing monotype, it's like sure you're weak to like the three main weaknesses of the bug typing, right? So rock, flying, fire, and you can always try to play around those. And I think he drafted in a way to like try to play around those, right?
Yeah.
But then, what happens if you're like that same Blacephalon starts clicking Shadow Ball now? What do you do, right?
Yeah.
You spend because it's mono bug. You spend so much resources trying to like not just die to rock, fire, or flying. It's a lot weaker to a bunch of other typings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Like, there's no ghost resist here either.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just weak to so many typings, which is like it makes sense that it's weak to all these typings because it's literally a monotype team, but it's going to be an issue.
Yeah, like even monotype, like just in general, monotype teams can work, but like mono bug is like the worst type to do a monotype team of. So, oh, he did say he was trying to do a challenge, so I guess it's fitting.
Yeah.
He did mono bug, but knowing Rog, he'll probably pull out like at least 3 to 4 wins with this.
Hey, he's technically never missed playoffs in CDLA history, so maybe he'll still somehow, sneak his way into playoff. We never know.
Honestly, that would be impressive.
He hasn't played his week 1 game yet, so I still don't really know what to expect from him. I just think objectively this is like easily the worst team across the 2 divisions, and
Yeah.
like
I
there's
think it's kind of purposely bad, though.
yeah. But hey, good luck. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. I agree. Do you want to move on then?
Yeah.
Now I get to talk about my team. And let me get to my team. Fuck. There we go.
Wow,
So,
swearing, that's fucking crazy.
Okay. I like my team a lot.
It's a pretty hazy team. I think there's a lot of ones here where you look at them and you're like, yeah, that's something Hazy would draft.
Yeah.
Mega Scissor, Greninja, Necrozma, Mienshao, Giratina, it's like a lot of mons we are used to seeing you draft, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, I don't think it's like completely unoriginal. Like, I haven't used Nidoqueen in a really long time. I haven't used Vileplume in a really long time. I haven't used Togedemaru. I haven't used like a lot of these mons in a pretty long time, but I feel pretty good about like the composition of the team. It's a good mix of. I think it's a good mix of both breaking and sweeping. Like there's a lot of win cons here.
Yeah. The only real issue I think is that your flying resist is Togedemaru.
I mean,
so
yeah. Like
don't pull it. To be fair, it's a Togedemaru.
No, I was gonna say that like Mega Scizor and Moltres can help quite a lot with like physical flying types. But special flying types, yeah, it's kind of reliant on Togedemaru.
I mean, even physical ones, like, what are the good physical flying types? Staraptor, you're not enjoying switching into Brave Birds. Mega Aerodactyl, you're not enjoying switching into that either.
I guess.
And then, like, what other good physical flying types are there? I think those are the main 2. There's Dragonite, but I don't think that was drafted, and Dragonite here also would be super annoying. Although Comfy would be able to attempt revenge killing it.
Yeah.
I just don't think Togedemaru helps with any of them. Like, Aerodactyl just EQs you and you don't actually eat EQs. It was all a lie.
Shut up.
Staraptor has close combat. Dragonite has EQ, so flying can be an issue here. But
Yeah,
I think that's the only real problem I see.
Yeah, I think everything else like just works well together. I like my momentum. I think it's very annoying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't really know what else to talk about my team because like without like voting over and over again.
Yeah, it's hard to talk about your own team because you can just be like, "Oh wow, this team is so good, haha."
Pretty much, yeah. No, but like
wow.
legitimately, I feel good about this. I feel much better about this than my my season 8 team. At least in the beginning, because my season 8 team was kind of a train wreck.
Yeah.
This is my season 5 team, but it is what it is.
Like, I think the only other thing someone could point out is that, oh, you don't have 1,000 arrows resist or whatever, but there's like a freaking scissor there.
Yeah, Mega Scissor Vileplume should be able to deal with like the majority of Zygarde sets.
Yeah, Mega Scissor deals with Zygarde better than like any actual resist, I think, because it's the only mon that can beat every Zygarde set for you. Like, some other grass types could lose to Glare Coil if they'd paralyze enough, or lose to like Sub-Toxic. Scissor doesn't care. And I think in OU, the only set that could reliably check Zygarde was Curse Scissor, so like, it's not really Zygarde is not really an issue, and then for other ground types, you have a bunch of Levitators, so it should be fine.
Yeah, like Vileplume is also, even though it's not a resist, can be a fairly sturdy check to a good number of grounds, I feel.
Yeah, because it still forces them out and you can always String Sap on the Switch, and String Sap is a broken move.
Yeah, I also think that like having T-Spikers and Nidoqueen and Grunt really, like my team really likes T-Spikes. Like Giratina loves being able to spam Hex with that. And gets extra chip on checks for Mienshak, Greninja,
yeah, and it can allow Necrozma to beat some dark types that you usually would not beat.
Yeah.
Because like let's say you're facing a dark type that has no real reliable recovery. You could just be mono stored power and set up in its face, wait for it to die to poison, and then suddenly you lose to me clicking stored power. Right?
Yeah.
So I think overall T-Spikes are pretty nice. You can try to do some like sub-Roost Moltres bullshit with pressure, and with T-Spikes that would just be hell to deal with, I think.
Yeah. And it also means that like Giratina gets to click Hex and more or less claim 1 on everything that isn't a resist.
Yeah.
I guess we can move on now. I think that's pretty much all I can think about my team without like gargling over like all my heat that I really haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah.
Alright, so...
Cinna, are probably the newest Pokemon player in this server, right?
Yeah. I mean, dude, he played like back in Gen 6, but he hasn't played in a very long time.
He is old, for those of you who don't know.
And to be fair, like, I think this isn't a bad, like, for someone who hasn't played Pokemon competitively for like at least like 5-6 years, this isn't a bad team.
There's an Umbreon, so I don't think your point like works here, but there are a lot of good mons, and speaking of Gen 6, there are a lot of mons here that were broken in Gen 6, right?
Yeah.
Kyurem, Thundurus, Heatran, you know. Yeah. Those are
in some extent it does kind of feel like a Gen 6 OU team. Like the
yeah.
Kyurem, Slowbro, Thundy, Heatran.
Yeah. I like the team. There's a lot of mons here that I would draft. I used to be a pretty big Kyurem Black hater, but I think with the Gen 8 changes, I like it a lot now.
Yeah.
Dragon Dance, Icicle Spears, and Freeze Ray were all huge for it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no Z move kind of sucks, but I think it's still a trade worth taking.
Yeah.
No Z move for Dragon Dance KB. Speaking of users, your users are really good here, I think.
Yeah.
Thunderous, like, and Rock are all really good users because they have the speed to make sure you get to use your Z.
Mm-hmm. I guess one concern that I do have is that I feel like you have a lot of mons clustered around it that are like fast, but not elite speed fast. Like you have Thunderous, Lycanroc Dusk, Whimsicott, and Taurus all in like that same speed tier range, and that's not generally
I
like
don't
a
I
terrible
don't
thing.
think you need. I don't really agree. I don't think speed here is that big of an issue. I don't think you need something that's faster than Whimsicott. 116 as your fastest mon is pretty decent. I don't think you
I
necessarily
guess
need something
I'm
faster.
just saying that like having that many of like your good mons clustered around that speed tier range could make Trick Room a bit of an issue. But I guess like you have Slowbro that should deal with like most Trick Room mons, so it kind
Yeah,
of deters that.
yeah, and Umbreon can also, because a lot of trick considerers are going to be psychic types, and Umbreon can also kind of just sit on them.
Yeah.
And then for the biggest trick room threats like Stack Attack, you have Quagsire. For uh, Marowak, you can try some sort of itemless or I think it's Kasib Berry on Slowbro and
Yeah, Cassette Berry.
check that. So I don't think Trick Room is the biggest nightmare here for you to deal with.
I think
And
I
yeah,
would have liked a little bit more momentum, but it's not like you don't have any. Like Slowbro, Thunder, Whimsicott do click momentum moves a good amount of times. I just think that maybe like one more mon could have helped with that. Well, I
I
guess you have
mean,
Baton Pass Umbreon.
I think Slowbro kind of just doesn't care. Like your U-turn button is going Slowbro and then clicking teleport, right?
I
It's
guess, yeah.
really hard to punish, so I don't think it's too bad because you get to just go Slowbro and then teleport into one of your threats. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the end of the world. Uh, it's I don't think this team has any big weakness. The only thing I feel is unfortunate is that this team just feels like a regular like strong team, right? I feel like for our format it could have been scarier. This team just feels like a solid team, and I guess you're weak to T spikes. That's like the other big issue with it.
Yeah, not having a poison type kind of hurts. I think you could probably maybe get rid of Taurus for a poison type instead because you already have a pretty good ghost resistant Umbreon, so that normal typing isn't really adding a ton more. I feel.
Yeah. And like not only do you not have a grounded poison type, your removal is also kind of like I think it's only Whimsicott
Thunderous
and
as well.
Generous, but like both are stubbed by dark types, which is kind of cringe.
Just run Defiant, Thunderous, easy.
Yeah, your best, if your most reliable way to remove Hazard is defog Defiant Thunderous, which is unfortunate, I think. You know?
Yeah. So getting some more hazard removal would definitely help with this team.
Yeah,
Whenever
more
I,
hazard removal, maybe another rocker to help Heatran, and then I think this team would be better.
yeah, I agree with that. And with that, do you think we should move on?
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Fade, and this is just like the most broken mod still available at every round, at least for like the first like 5 or 6 rounds. I feel
Yeah.
like
Uh,
Calyrex, Mew, stock like Calyrex, Mew, Rillaboom, Megalop is really scary.
those are all mons that are annoying.
Yeah.
Like Mew is just if you're not careful, it just randomly wins, and you don't know how it did it. It just decided it wanted to win.
Yeah.
Um, Takataka is kind of underrated. I feel it doesn't get drafted too often, and when it does get drafted, I feel like people always lock it in a trick room role or just like a rock lead or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But things like Bandit Stack Attack, I think, are really scary because Jarble is almost always 150 base power, and then it cannot afford admin, so that makes it hit really hard, a lot harder than like you'd expect. I think.
Yeah. No, I like the first. I like the first half of the team, but like obviously because you spent so many points at the beginning, like the team is very top heavy. And
Yeah.
that's why I get things like Camerupt and Guzzlord, which I think are fine budget picks, but not really like ideal.
Yeah, Guzzlord is kind of whack, but I think the rest of the team makes up for it. And like
Yeah,
to go back on the stack attack point, Bandit stack attack Jaraball hits as hard as Bandit Victini V crit pretty much.
yeah, very
It's
strong attack.
it is strong and it can snowball because you do have Beast Boost.
Yeah, uh, I don't really. I wish this team had like one like certified special breaker because right now like your special offense is what Nasty Plot Mew, Specs Guzzlord, Specs
There's a
Rotom.
camel.
Yeah, Camel. I guess I should. I can't sleep on Camel.
Yeah,
Um,
special offense can be kind of whack, and then like speed wise, it's also kind of whack because you go from Mega Lopunny to Mew.
yeah, and like that's a very very big speed tier gap to have because Mew does like to run speed, but it doesn't always like to run speed. So sometimes you
And
can.
there's also just it's outsped by a lot of offensive mons, so like
Yeah.
it's unfortunate. And like, what is your best Scarfer, right? In all of this,
Rillaboom? Rotom?
it's nothing. There's no good answer here. So,
I mean, if you're
Revenge
Div,
Killing
you say.
something.
If you're Div, you say Geewees.
Like revenge killing something that's not weak to grassy glide can be really obnoxious here. Uh, and yeah, I think that's a pretty big issue this team has. I think speed and special offense would have been nice here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the team next to it, but like imagine Naganadel gets a speed boost. Oh no, what do you do? Well, you just lose. You can't grassy glide it, right? And
Yeah.
that's just kind of unfortunate. Or, oh, what happens if the Celesteela gets an Autotomize up? Celesteela, plus 2 Celesteela usually can still be revenge killed by some fast Scarfers, but here you don't have any, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of unfortunate things like that.
Yeah, I think this team can either like just auto win some matchups or it's gonna get royally fucked. And there's I don't really know if there's much of an in between.
Yeah, and Vade still hasn't played his week 1 game, so it's we can't really say like, oh, he'll probably be fine because he can play that way or not.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see when he plays Cable and stops Johnning, am I right?
Yeah, imagine Johnning, cringe.
Actual Johnner, that's fucking crazy. I hate Europeans.
This is truly a European moment. Alright, let's move on before we
Before we trigger more Europeans, yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
alright. Now we got a base North American Seb, and I like this team.
A fellow Canadian, I can respect that.
I like the Naga Megadon. I like a lot of the mods here individually. I just don't really.
I like them together. I think they synergize together pretty well. Hippowdon, Rotom, Tangrowth, Celesteela is just pain to try to break through. Hippowdon itself is broken. I love that Pokemon. I love Diancie. I think Rotom is just the most annoying Pokemon ever.
Yeah. Like, it's a good... Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good team. I just... Personally, like... Things fit together, it just doesn't really feel like something that I would use.
You're cringe, that's all I'll say. You're just cringe.
Okay. Okay. I see how it is. I don't really, like... It's just a good team.
Yeah.
Like, everything works together.
I think the only thing that can be sad about this team is utility-wise, you don't have the most, right? Like a lot of your good mons, like Celesteela, Tangrowth, don't bring too much utility.
Yeah, I mean, you could do, like, Suicide Lead Naga, I guess.
Do you want to, though?
I mean, if the Gyaptos or the Diancie is the way better win con here, then sure.
Yeah, you have 2 flying types, none of them can defog, so Rotom is kind of stuck in that role if you do want to remove hazards.
Yeah, actually, removal here is a little bit on the sus side because it's just what Rotom Wash and
It's just
Magic
Rotom
Bounce.
and Magic
Science,
Bounce, yeah.
but Magic Bounce Science isn't really even removal. It's just being
And
weak
then
brained.
for rocks, it's only really just Hippowdon,
Yeah, like
which
yeah,
is again not the biggest issue because Hippowdon is a really reliable rock setter. I mean, it's it might be the best rock setter in the format. I feel like.
I mean, there's also, like I said, T Spikes and Spikes Naga, but I don't really know how often you want to run that. Like, I think I
Yeah.
maybe brought Spikes or T Spikes twice when I had it last season. If that, I don't even remember, honestly.
So yeah, I think on the utility side, this team is a bit on the weaker side. But besides that, like every mon here is really annoying and scary. It's there is not much to say besides that, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess
Yeah,
there's a Chikorita there, too. That's... I don't know what that does.
it's just there. I don't
It's
question
just
it.
a... Yeah, that's fair. Do you want to move on, then?
Yeah.
Alright, next up we got Smortny's team. And I just... Things just, like... It doesn't feel like things work together that well for me on this team.
I don't really agree with that. I think things cover each other pretty well. Something like Zapdos is weak to what? Ice and Rock, and then you have like a 4-time Rock resist in Exegil, and then uh, Azumarill, who is a really good Ice resist, and Blissful that just will murder
I
any Ice type you
I
ever face.
guess. It's just... It's not so much like... I guess... How do
Like
I
I
explain
think
this?
it synergizes pretty well
It's
together.
just not a team that vibes with me.
Again, so you're just biased. That's
Yes. Yes, I am just biased.
I
Like,
don't know.
I think the big problem for me is just how limited the momentum is. Like it's literally just what
I
Zapdos,
can see
Jolteon.
that. Yeah, it's mostly just you turn Zapdos and then Baton Pass will switch Jolteon. Does Latios get Baton Pass? I think it does.
I think it does, but I don't really know how often you want to run that on Lottie,
Yeah.
especially when you can't pass stats anymore.
Yeah, momentum-wise, this team can feel a bit like, stuck, but I don't think that's the end of the world. Most mons here are really scary. There's, like, double poison, double electric can be a bit weird. But besides that, like, I think this team has enough good mons to work really well. The it just feels like it's for a team with only 9 mons, which is I think the minimum we allow.
Yeah, minimum.
It feels a bit underwhelming for 9 months. I don't
Yeah,
like. I feel like for 9 months you could have grabbed much better months, but it feels like this team used a lot of points on months that are in like the 10 to 15 range. So it's a lot of months that are not top tier, but that still cost a decent chunk, like Azumarill, Roserade, Porygon Z, Jolteon, and I feel like you could drop those for maybe higher tier mon that are
yeah,
just better in general, and then get like a few low tier mons to make up for it.
yeah. I think another thing too is that even though Drill really doesn't need sand to work, I think
It still would have been nice,
yeah, I
yeah.
think just having that option would have been nice because, like, actually, yeah, you do have a good Scarfer and with stuff once. It's not really the end of the world, but like,
Blissful is a broken Scarfer, yeah.
if you don't, yeah, actually, what really checks Step One when it's trying to be a Scarfer that Drill would help with? Bulky fires, I guess. I don't know. That's not really
Like,
great switching. In the first
yeah,
place.
Blissful itself is just kind of a broken man, but I do think Drill, having the send option on Drill would have been really nice.
Yeah, I think the main reasons I don't particularly vibe with this team is just like the lack of momentum and not really having the sand for Drill. Other than that, I think it's solid. It's just not
Yeah,
something I would use.
like I think Zapdos is a great Pokemon, Exeggutor is a great Pokemon. Azumarill is kind of underrated, I feel, because it forces a lot of bulky grass, bulky water in. And so if you're just Sap Sip Perish Trap, you can get free kills on things like tank growth or,
Yeah.
So I think that's really nice. I'm just not the biggest fan here, I think, of Roserade. I think how much is Roserade?
11, but I mean, to be fair, it does have Technician HP Fire here. Or
Yeah,
Technician
but
Hidden Power.
it's so hard for me to justify paying 11 for Roserade when you get Roselia at, what, 3?
Well, you're also getting a Mon that can run Scarf. Like, Scarf Rosary is can be fairly threatening.
Paying 8 points for a better Scarfer, I don't think is worth it.
I don't mind the Rosary pick here.
And then, like, Porygon Z, it's a Mon that's kind of weird, I think.
Yeah, I don't really think the PZ...
I feel like on paper it's really good because they're like, oh, download adaptability, but then in practice, your best stab is Tri Attack. That move has 80 base power.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan of, like, the Porygon Z Jolteon at the end, but I think, like, the top 8...
And then, yeah, Jolteon is nice for speed, but then, like, it doesn't bring much because, like, in terms of offensive electric, Zapdos straight up hits harder.
Yeah.
Straight up. So Jolteon is really only there for speed, and then if you wanted speed...
Yeah, like Swallow.
Yeah, spending 10 on Jolteon just seems like a lot, and I think that's my main issue with a lot of points spent in mons that are between like 10 and 15, so like none of them will straight up carry you, while still all being really expensive. And I feel like if you downgraded some of them, like Roserade, Porygon, like if you drop Roserade for Roselia, Porygon for a lower turn normal, and then drop Jolteon away, you would have a lot of points to work with, and then you could have grabbed like another really high tier mon, and I think that would have been nice.
Yeah. With that, do you want to move on?
And yeah, with that we can move on.
Yeah. Alright, so now we have the final team, which is Flap, and I don't really know how to feel about this team.
We were talking about Gen 6 OU, this is Gen 6 OU the team.
Yeah.
Weavile, Clefable, Gliscor, Mega Metagross, there's not...
Throw in a Breloom there for good measure.
You can do more Gen 6 OU than that.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid team. I just played it, so it's a team I looked at a lot. Mons like Staraptor are just really scary because Reckless, Brave Bird, and Double Edge are just such a pain to switch into, unless you have a Skarmory. Haha. Breloom is a bitch. I had to face that earlier today. Subseed with Toxic Poison Heal is so annoying.
Yeah, I think Flap grabbed a lot of like underrated mons like Breloom, Staraptor, Colossal here.
It's a lot of mons that are annoying. Mega Metagross is just annoying to switch into. Gliscor is annoying. Clefable is annoying. Weavile Pursuit Trapping is annoying. Breloom is annoying. You know, it's... I think that's one of the best ways to describe it. This team is really, really annoying.
Yeah, like the amount of different... the amount of utility and like the different ways that pretty much every mod can be played, like, gives Flap a lot of versatility here, I feel.
Yeah, I think the defensive options of this team are really good. Things like Gliscor, Clefable, like, don't care about Toxic. And they can
care about Toxic.
Yeah, and then like none of them are really passive. They can, like, if you're not careful, Clefable gets a few comments up and suddenly you lose. Gliscor can be Swords Dance. So I think those are all really scary mons. But one of the things I've noticed while prepping is that your special offense is kind of lacking. Some of your bigger threats are like Metagross, Breloom, Staraptor.
Yeah, your only real special offense is what? Dragouge and Calm Mind, Clefable.
And then, yeah,
Toys, I guess.
On the special side, you're left with like Clefable, Blastoise, Dragouge. I don't think any of them has a special attack of over 100.
Nope. I think Dragouge is the highest, and that's 97. I mean, great with adaptability Sludge Wave Draco, that does hit hard, but like everything else just it's kind of weak.
Yeah, so like in my game against him, I ended up just winning with Iron Defense Skarmory because how do you break it, right? You don't really. Then it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I think defensively this team is really, really solid. I had, I think, a Victini against this team, and Victini is a mon that's usually really good at dismantling defensive cores, at just breaking through. And I was looking at this team, and it's just, it doesn't really work here. Colossal can be a stop to most physical sets, and then Spadef Clefable eat from Special Victini pretty well.
Yeah.
There's Blastoise that can come in on U-turns V creates, there's a Gliscor. And so, like, if this team can work around something like Victini defensively, I don't think there is much that will outright just break this team, unless you're Dracovish. But that's a different story. And then offensively, I don't think, besides maybe another special attacker, I don't think this team is lacking too much. Metagross is a mon that's really good at pressuring everything. Weavile is super annoying, and it has Z. As you know, Triple Axle is just a really strong move.
If you hit, of course.
If you hit, yeah, but like for example, Bandit Weavile with Triple Axle can two-hit kill Max Vizdev Skarmory. There's not that many mons that can do this with a move that's not super effective. And then yeah.
And then you have like Staraptor Weavile put a lot of pressure on Staraptor Weavile Braylon put a lot of pressure on physical cores, Fizdef cores. It's just the special like there's just not a ton to worry about in the special offense if you have a good Dragal just answer really.
Yeah, like if I go back to the Skarmory example, Dragalge can't really do much with Skarmory. So like
it has T-Bolt, but you got speed.
I got speed, and it's also T-Bolt from 97 special attack non-stab.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the problems with Dragalge is that if something resists your stab, suddenly it becomes kind of sad. Because suddenly you're weak. And, you know, having your main special attacker be that weak is unfortunate.
And I can't really think of anything else to say about Flap's team, so...
Yeah, I think that's about it. We can pick our 3 favorite teams here, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of like what we did with last division.
Yeah. I think from... Do you want to go ahead? You can go ahead.
So I think this division has a lot of teams that have more obvious flaws. So I think it's hard to pick. I think my top 3 would be... I like my team, obviously. That's... And then I like... I would put Seb's team as my second favorite. And then third favorite, honestly, probably Destroyer's team after the trades. I know it's a really offensive team. It doesn't have much defensive counterplay, but I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And it's... Mamoswine, Mega Gallade, Coco Ashgren is just stupid.
Yeah.
Like... So I think that would be my number 3.
I think for me, I would go with... Obviously, I like my team. I think... I hate your team, Kevin, because it's good, so I'm not gonna put it on here. Because it's just... It just seems unfun to prep against. I like Honch's team. Like, Honch's team after the trades. I don't know really why. It's just everything seems to work. And I would agree that I like Seb's team. I just wish he had a bit more utility.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really... Like, if you look at my team also doesn't have the most utility, right? I have Skarmory, has Rocker Defogger, and then the rest of the team is just... I'm clicking buttons. So, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think Hippowdon and Rotomar are more than enough, and... In the past, that's how I would draft. I would just get Hippowdon as, like, a super solid Rocker. I'd get those as a solid Defogger, and then from there, I'm just like, yeah, now I can just do whatever I want.
And, yeah, that's... So I guess by proxy then, like, our favorite team ends up being Seb, I guess?
Yeah, if we don't count ours, Seb would be the winner of our division. And, what should we call this?
I don't fucking know. This is too early.
The Hazy and Kvn bias contest. There we go.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Seb ends
And
up being the big winner. So yeah.
so
How do you feel about this division compared to Desolate? Like in terms of the team power?
I don't know. I kind of like Desolate, like more teams in Desolate than in Primordial. I feel like
Yeah.
Desolate. Like I think there were more well-rounded teams in Desolate than Primordial. I think here you can tell like who like because a lot of the new players ended up in Primordial. Like you can kind of tell that some of them might not be completely comfortable with like the whole drafting style because of how different it is to other leagues.
Yeah,
And
I think
that kind of shows with teams having more obvious flaws.
yeah, I think Desolate has like a lot of the teams didn't really have any super big flaws. Like some of the flaws would be like, oh, your best special attacker is Lando T, which is like Lando T is still a really good special attacker. You know, like 105 access to Calm Mind. It's better than Dragalge in my opinion. With Z. Whereas this team, like some of the teams I really like Yeezy's team end up having huge weaknesses. Like in his case, you know, Volt Switch is free. Or like your team, I think has a lot of ones I like, but then not being able to switch into Hurricane and Braveheart kind of sucks, I think. And then Fade's team is like, I think those are all teams I would really like if like 1 or 2 months were changed.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Desolate has a lot of teams that are a lot more well-rounded, and like for none of them, pretty much, I can say, oh, this month's like I really wish you dropped this month. I think most of them are fine as they are.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I guess we should end it up here. Unfortunately, we did not make the 1 hour challenge. We are currently at 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 minute, and something seconds.
Well, I guess, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Some of the teams here had to make changes, and then we talked about our own team, and we also made a comparison with the other division.
Yeah,
so
and also I think
it makes sense that this one would be longer.
I think there was also just more flaws to pick out in Desolate drafts than there were in there were more problems in Primordial drafts than in Desolate drafts.
Yeah.
So I guess we can wrap it up here. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for the next time I upload in like 5 months. Haha.
YouTuber outro, let's go. And
YouTuber outro moment.
If you're a Desolate coach who watched through all of this, thank you for supporting us. Yay, you can ping us and say, I watched through all of this.
If you're a Primordial coach and didn't like how we talked about your team, then cry about it, I guess, plus ratio.
Hope. Yeah, just cope.
Our opinions are objective.
Yep, they're facts. Unfortunately, we will not take any questions.
That's true.
These are all just facts. So again, congrats Seb on drafting a team both me and Hazy like. Thank you all of you for listening, and I guess we can end it here now.
Yeah. See you in the next video, which again will probably be in like 5 months. So have fun. Bye.